This episode is powered by Act Now Education. Go to www.actnoweducation.com for free comprehensive educational resources and opportunities for active duty, veterans, military spouses, and children.
Or they might say, hey, before I decide to enlist, I'm going to get my degree first. I'm going to get my associates. I might transfer to San Diego State. And then I'll say, well, here's the opportunity that you possibly can, you can commission in 2 years.
Warriors, fall in. It's time for formation. So if you're an avid listener of the Morning Formation, you'll recall that I sat down and had a conversation with one of my previous battle buddies while I was in the Army, who is now a professor of military science, Lieutenant Colonel Michelle Parlette. She is now currently the professor of military science of the Army ROTC program down at San Diego State University. Well, talking to her actually led me to her recruiting officer. And I've been following this gentleman for a while, and I've been seeing like all the posts that he's been putting out, all the information about the SMP program, the Green to Gold program, the 3-year scholarship, all these great pieces of information that are out there and are available to people graduating from high school, folks that are maybe first year in college, second year in college, folks that are in the military looking to transfer over to the officer side while obtaining their bachelor's degrees. So today we're going to learn who the recruiting officer is for San Diego State University, and he's going to take us even deeper into the many opportunities that are out there for young adults seeking to challenge themselves beyond just a college education. So I want to welcome Dr. Michael Brantley. Thank you for joining us to the Morning Formation today, sir.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for taking the time to meet with me.
The honor is all mine. I really appreciate it, and I really appreciate all the information you put out, because I constantly tell people all the time about my own experience, because I was an SMP, a simultaneous membership program cadet, where I was enlisted in the Army National Guard, and then my junior year, I transitioned into becoming a cadet. So I went from being an E4 to a cadet, and then the day that I graduated with my bachelor's degree, that was the day that I went technically active duty as a second lieutenant in 01 in the United States Army. So it was a very proud day to get my diploma, but then also have my father, who had served 20 years in the military, enlisted, pin on my bars. So thank you for what you do. I really appreciate you, and not just holding the position, but actually owning that position and putting so much information out there.
Yeah, no problem. That's what we're here for. It's so much information out there that's just it's untouched. I think a lot of us, SMP. I still had to kind of learn about that when I started the role, but SMP, ed delay. There's just so many different options, and I didn't. My background is Navy. I knew nothing about ROTC at all. So now that I kind of got into the regulations and I've been able to, award a number of these different, scholarships, you just learn more and more every day. So.
Yeah, I find that pretty fascinating about you. I had assumed that you were prior service in the Army, but it turns out you're in the Navy. So would you mind telling us about your own background, where you're from originally, and describe your own military career for those of us out here meeting you for the very first time?
Okay. Yeah. I actually, I enlisted in the Navy. I grew up in Compton, South Central, I'm from California, ended up moving to South Central LA. I had no plans at all on joining the military. It wasn't in the cards. The plan was to get out and, graduate high school, go to college. And yeah, I did that. I went to Long Beach City College and had a couple of jobs. I remember worked at a portal potty company, and I remember I worked at AMC Theater. Yeah, it was pretty tough. And things just weren't panning out. And I was just trying to figure out my next move. And I remember I had this real crap car, and where the AMC Theater was right by the recruiting center. So, Air Force, Army, Navy had the recruiting centers there. And I was taking a bus because my car had broke down, and the bus had stopped right in front of the recruiting center. And right when I got off, the Army recruiter, he said, hey, man, you look like you need to change some things around. And I ended up taking the ASVAB for the Army, went into the Navy, and, did my 20 years. I initially was what they call a ship serviceman, They've changed it now to retail specialist, but what I coined it is kind of like you're the Walmart of the ship. Barbershop, vending machines, ship store, laundry, all that stuff. But you have additional duties while you're in to where you can become like the divisional, departmental career counselor. So once I got towards the latter years of my career, I had retired as an E6. I was a command career counselor. So I did that for like the last 4 years. And, I retired and then just kind of, took advantage of the education. It's been a free ride for the most part. And, wanted to get into higher ed because I saw that it opened doors for me and took an additional role at a university once I got out. And then I ended up here at SDSU.
Yeah, that's quite interesting. So talk to us about how you became a recruiter. And also, I find it quite fascinating that you have your doctorates in education as well. So talk to us about that, because did you start your educational journey like while you were in active duty, or was that something that happened later on in life?
Oh, yeah. I started it when I was in. The role came up. I used to work at National University. I was an admissions advisor, and then I transitioned to an enrollment advisor. And I loved it. It was like probably 5 minutes from my house. You got to meet with a different, demographics of students, more so adult students, veteran students. I enjoyed doing it. And I remember one of the students came in with his daughter, and she went to San Diego State, and he was starting school. And she was like, "Yeah, they have a job opening up at San Diego State for the human resource assistant. It's the same thing you're doing here." I was like, all right. So, USA Jobs is a little different. So I looked, and I think the announcement for the job popped maybe 2 weeks later. So I applied, and I went in, and I had an interview with Lieutenant Colonel Parlette. And I thought it was exactly what I was doing at National. So I said, I'm in San Diego State. So I ended up getting an offer. Then it wasn't. It was something totally different. It was a lot. It's a lot, like, because you went through the program. It's just so much that's involved with, enrolling someone in the program, contracting, commissioning, pay increases and things like that. And yeah, it's very rewarding, but it's just so much to it. Our recruiting operations officer had moved on to another position, and, this spot opened up, and, it was kind of mutually agreed upon if I wanted to do it. I had to take a physical, do some other stuff. And I've been doing the role for probably, it'll be almost 2 years.
But yeah, so I understand, how much opportunity is out there and all the ins and outs to some extent. And it kind of makes it easy to talk to you about these kinds of things because I have that background right now. But from where you stand, in layman's terms, like, how do you explain to parents out there who have never been in the military themselves and don't understand what ROTC is and how military service works after college? How do you talk to them and get them to fully understand? Because it's like a complete different culture, completely different language, right?
Yeah, it's from a place of passion, and just more so the opportunity. To go back, I was able to get my education 10 years into when I was in. I took full advantage of tuition assistance, BOG waiver, fast, all those different things. I found the loophole in order to get an additional year post 9/11 and all that stuff in order to get multiple degrees because I didn't quite know what I wanted to do. So when I had started this job, I didn't know that they were just paying for college. So, my strategy is to let parents know. I kind of ease them into the process. Yes, your son, daughter, whomever will ultimately enlist active duty, National Guard, or reserves, but they have the opportunity, to go to college first. You're a student first. And, that's what I kind of explain. And then I will never, discredit my time served as an enlisted, E6. It was kind of tough for me to advance, but I had tried to go officer twice and it was just so complex and you had to do so much. So I explained just the simplicity behind it. If you just do certain things and you meet certain requirements and just give all the details, it's all about just giving the details. And I just make sure I'm available most of the time. Like when I meet with parents or whomever, I respond to an email within 5 to 10 minutes. It's a blurb just to have all the information out there. I took the extra step of creating a website until SDSU, they have a new webmaster. So until, we can actually get our school's EDU account up to par, I had one created, and it's just it's easier on the eyes, and it just explains everything in detail. It's just about having the information. If I can get the information out to a parent and just know exactly what they're looking at before I have time to sit with them, we're just, closing the gap on a lot of those questions that they might have. The military has changed since, you and I were in. I joined in '98, so it's a different place. It's a different, type of applicant for the military now. So we try to, just focus in on what it has to offer. There's a lot of bad press when it comes to the military now. Sometimes, veterans that are struggling and transition, that stuff is scary. But, you always got to make sure you have the right information, have the right resources provided, give the right examples. Yes, I was enlisted. I did 20 years. I retired as an E6, but the military got me exactly to where I am. It paid for 10 degrees once I finished my doctorate. So there's just so much out there that I think a lot of us don't know about. And the focus tends to be on, the bad stuff. So we kind of stay away from that and just focus on the opportunities.
Who you are and who you become in your trajectory in life sort of is all about who you surround yourself with, right?
Yeah.
So can you talk a little bit about the environment and the culture of the Army ROTC environment that a cadet might experience while there? Like, what's a typical week like?
They are, I like to emphasize that they are students first, but we have a great cadre. I've been there enough to see a rotation from one regime to another, and both have been, good. Being Navy and seeing Army, that was a little different at first, the language and things like that, but it's just a melting pot of just different experiences. People from all over the place, different MOSs, different branches, just, you can see it, and it definitely helps. And, somebody that's just, S&P cadet that's probably enlisted in the Guard or Reserve will have more experience than somebody that's just a national scholarship cadet that's coming in straight out of high school, and their only exposure to it is probably what they know. Maybe a family member served, a parent or something like that in JROTC. So for somebody that's coming in, like I say, straight off the street into the program, the exposure for it is it's just so much of it. It is. There's a lot of different examples. Even we have a Cavazos intern, and he went S&P, but he's actually, he's a first lieutenant. He'll be putting on his captain here, I believe, in February, and he's a Ranger. He went through, Ranger school. So there's that example. We have, our Sergeant First Class. He's in, San Marcos or whatnot, but he's a 42 Alpha, so he understands the HR side of it. We have another staff sergeant that's a 42 Alpha. Just so much. So if someone has a question when it comes to what it is that they possibly want to do in the Army, long term, they'll have an answer no matter what. We do have some that go through the program and they say, what, I think I want to go enlisted. And I'll say, man, don't do that as a joke. But then we can explain, and we have a great relationship with all the recruiters in the area. That was one of the first things I did when I started the job is I went to the different recruiting offices and I introduced myself. And it wasn't that I was trying to poach numbers or anything like that. It's a one-for-one thing when it comes to S&P. And I explained that, and I sent over some slides. So, if ROTC isn't something that's for you, we're still a family here to where we can still help somebody if they decide to move on from the program. So they're well taken care of when they do come here. When we go to these events, you're supposed to go to like the Service Academy event or the West Point event. You're supposed to say, hey, this is why ROTC is the best, and this is why you should pick us. I never really say that. I always just say, apply for them all. Give yourself enough options to where if one doesn't work out, you'll have the opportunity for the next thing. And when it comes to scholarships, you're not committed to it. So if you apply for all those different things, all you have to do is just do no. Like all you have to do is just go in and you decline whatever the scholarship is. So just make sure you apply for them all. And then as soon as we know who's going to come in to the program early on, like the national scholarship and things like that. So we reach out. There's a few kids that I talk to that don't even plan on coming to San Diego State, or we're lower on their list. I'll still make sure I reach out to them and help them, because I'm the type of person, when I have something that I'm working on, if it's a goal that's kind of keeping me up at night, I like to make sure that I get that information out there. You know what I'm saying? So I can get that. So I'll make sure I'll take care of them. I wake up kind of early to work out. So sometimes I'm running the stairs, sending emails or and things like that. But it's just about getting the information out there and making sure that they have it. So.
Yeah, you never know where that conversation, I mean, even if a student is looking at going to a different university, you never know where that conversation will take you, because that great experience will be shared to others, and someone else may be interested in coming to San Diego State, but it's all about just being good to people, right? You seem to be a tremendous mentor when it comes to that. And that's probably why you got offered the job, almost immediately, right? The next day after you interviewed for this job.
Nah, I just think they needed somebody. That's what I'll be telling.
Is that right? No, I can tell you have the personality. Despite you were Navy and not Army, I mean, you have the personality, the glowing personality to really be intriguing and provide a lot of information for folks out there, easy to talk to as well. So, and for parents out there, or anyone out there who's thinking about, what's going to be my next step in life, approximately how much money is typically saved. And would you mind talking about the leadership that's earned by a cadet versus just a regular college student attending college?
Money wise, it's upwards of the whole tuition and fees, room and board. You get extra incentives like a book stipend for $1,200. You get your monthly stipend. Our nursing cadets, they get a $650. It's kind of like a supply stipend for like scrubs and things like that. You got to think of our 5 schools: San Diego State, Cal State San Marcos, Point Loma Nazarene, UCSD, and USD. USD is a very expensive school. So a bachelor's degree there can be upward of $150,000, and that's free. Yeah. So, right. There is that. For SMP cadets, if they choose not to opt in for what's called a GRFD scholarship, a guaranteed reserve forces duty, meaning if once they assess and commission, they'll have to go National Guard or reserve. If they decide to go non-scholarship because they ultimately, decide to move on from the Guard or reserve once they assess into active duty, then, they're able to use their educational benefits, their post 9/11. So there's that option. It's just so much money saved, which is why there's such a press on, contracting fast. There is the whole non-deployable thing. That's money. I mean, it's that's I can say that's emotional. That's saved, because I've worked with a number of our cadets that we have some right now, as a matter of fact, that we're trying to figure out how to get them, contracted sooner, because we're having some issues with the whole DOD-MERB situation in order to get them contracted, because, it's looming. A deployment is looming. So there's a lot of money saved. There's a lot of stress, that's kind of relieved. You can focus in on finishing your degree and being a student, and focus in on the program. On the leadership side, the military science classes, for what I've seen, are awesome. Army leadership, customs and traditions. They do have health and fitness to where they go out and they PT with the cadets and things like that. Applied leadership, military history, and things like that. So, I wish I'd get me some experience. I can teach some of those classes, but it's all there. But aside from the courses that are taught, you actually have that mentor. You actually have that leader that's been in for those years that you can ask those questions to, and they can share their experiences. So it's all just right there. And I tell a lot of the applicants, the hardest part is just getting accepted into the school, and we take it from there. So,
nice. And so that's something to take into consideration for folks out there who are thinking about enlisting. There's nothing wrong with enlisting, but at the same time, if your immediate goal is to get your college out of the way nice and early, this would be a great direction for you to take into consideration, because you're not losing out time. At the end of the day, you are accomplishing something. And the one thing that I loved about the ROTC program that I was a part of, and I'm 100% positive the battalion that you're at does the same thing, but they kept me honest as far as the classes that I was signed up for. I was on target to graduate by a certain date, because we all know it's a 4-year degree, but some people take 5 to 6 years to get that 4-year degree, right? And so for me, they laid it out for me, like for this semester, this is what you're taking this year, next year, and the year after, and this is your projected graduation date.
So that's alignment.
Yeah, so, I mean, you've kind of got someone sort of watching over your back, making sure that you are staying on track with, your goals overall, right?
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's like we even get, we have a number of Air Force ROTC cadets that come to us. Their structure is a little different. There's more of a manning thing sometimes. So sometimes they kind of they have to cut a few,
Right.
and we'll go and we'll brief and we'll talk to them. And the cool thing is that the classes, because they're military science classes, they align. So a MS1, the military science 1, freshman, 2, sophomore, theirs are a little different. They're named different, but they'll come over to us and the classes will align. So if someone comes in, like I have someone right now, she's in her second year for the Air Force, but she wants to come to the Army ROTC. We happen to have the funds right now. So I'm working on her scholarship packet now. When she starts her third year, she'll continue on. When we have somebody like that, because you mentioned, you have somebody to kind of, watch your back when it comes to that. I like to send people to what's called basic camp. That way they'll get an exposure to it to kind of see what it is. They were acclimated to the Air Force and now they're coming over to the Army, or, those are the ones that can attend FTX. Just kind of get that out there just to see what they're, get a feel for it and things like that. So yeah, academic alignment is you have to make sure you have a strategy for it, but you can't just come in saying, hey, I'm going to go to college for this many years. You have to make sure your military science requirements are met. And, there's ways around it, or to expedite the process. SMP, so somebody that's went to, basic training, AIT, they can automatically come in and be an MS3, which is ROTC junior or whatnot. Right. Prior service, somebody that maybe served in the Navy or served in the Air Force, if they went to boot camp, they can come in as an MS3. But if they come in as a sophomore for their academic level, we have to make sure we align them. So we have to, maybe put them in MS2 courses to align them. That way, when they become a junior, then they'll take the MS3 courses. So there's a lot of different unique situations that we kind of run into, but it's fun sometimes. Sometimes it's a headache. It's a head scratcher, but at the end of the day, we just got to make sure we put them in the right classes. And then let them know about those extra opportunities like nursing, STEM. Believe it or not, they get, if you put it in early enough, sometimes those programs run over to 5 years. So it's what's called an extension of benefits. So a lot of kids that might think they'll have 4 years of college paid for, they might ultimately have 5. And that's something that you have to kind of catch in the early stages, just knowing, which is why you make sure academic alignment is on point. So, that's one of those little nuggets that's in there that, a lot of our nursing and STEM students don't know about. Like, hey, well, our program might end up being 5 years. What am I going to do? Well, we just need to make sure we have all those classes listed on, the 104, the academic roadmap. That way, when that year comes up that you have to do that extra year and get it paid for, well, you'll just hit the button. And if you don't do it in the beginning, then you'll have to do the paperwork in the back end. You Army guys in your package, there's so many packages that we got to do for everything.
Right.
It's
I've known quite a few people that try to go into the Air Force or the Navy as an officer, and it can be quite stringent as far as what it takes. They can be very selective, and that's why I mentioned earlier the Army being the biggest branch out there, having the most MOSs out there. It's a little easier to go into the Army as an officer and to get commissioned and whatnot. But let's talk really quickly about, you mentioned basic camp. All right. So what we're not talking about here is you've got somebody sort of watching over your shoulder, making sure that you are on target to graduate by a certain time. They're checking your GPA as well, making sure that, you are staying within that level of, being part of the program and keeping your grades up. Then you have these other social clubs or these other, I don't know what to call them really, but you have like Ranger Challenge, the rifle team. I'm trying to think of what else. The color guard. Yeah. And then there's also still opportunities to go airborne, right? Between your junior and senior year.
Yeah.
Airborne air assault. I've known people that have gone, I think, sapper before. Sometimes they'll send you for cadet troop leadership, right? But what type of training is involved before you actually get your commissioning?
Basic camp isn't really a requirement. It's more so it helps with alignment, and it's a developmental tool. I like to use it as that. Somebody that might be on the fence about the program. Summertime comes up, they're transferring in from one of our community college, or maybe they're a sophomore about to start their junior year. I use basic camp for that. I want you to get early exposure because your junior to senior year, you'll go to what's called advanced camp. And that's when you're kind of assessed. You'll be going through all those different tactical elements that are required, for you to actually go on and commission later on after your senior year. Also in that, you'll have to take a physical and things like that. So all those things that they're practicing when they go to labs, land nav, and things like that, they'll be really honing in on those things when they go to advanced camp. Basic camp though is very important. When I first started, I think historically we were sending maybe 2 to 3. I think this last summer past we sent 9. I used it as a recruiting tool. The numbers will always rise. I think it's just personal opinion when it comes to transfer students because all of our surrounding San Diego community colleges, they're still in the program and they work with them. So if we can get the information out there, that right there is a gold mine when it comes to just those opportunities. There are plenty of people that are in a lot of these community colleges that want to enlist, and they might not want to go, enlisted like I did. Or they might say, hey, before I decide to enlist, I'm going to get my degree first. I'm going to get my associates. I might transfer to San Diego State. And then I'll say, well, here's the opportunity that you possibly can, you can commission in 2 years. But the only way you can do it is if you don't have prior service, you're not, enlisted in the Guard or the Reserves, then you can go to basic camp. And basic camp is just like a lower level version of advanced camp. It gives you a little spoonful of what you'll expect in advanced camp, but it also gives you an idea of what the program, it has to offer. You go out there, you're exposed to that. You'll meet some other great cadets from all over the country. And I always, I think it's good. We had, out of those 9, I think 2 decided to move on. I think one was just like, I couldn't do this every day. And I was explaining that's not exactly what it is. And another one, he just decided to do something else. But it still was a great, developmental tool. And a lot of them, we had one that we had sent. She was on the fence about the program. She was like, I don't know if this is something I really want to do. We'll see. When she went to basic, she came back and she loved it. Now she's like, how do I go to air assault? And, how do I go to airborne school? I'm just like, okay, hold tight. we have to progress through the program. So
that's exciting. So where does basic camp take place and how long is it?
Fort Knox, Kentucky. It's about a month, about 4 weeks.
4 weeks. So. Okay. All expenses are paid. The university will send the prospect to basic camp, right?
Yeah. Only fee is the stress of our HRA, Mr. Jones, because he has to go in and book all those flights. But yeah, everything's taken care of. We'll get the pay information once we put them in the system, and they'll even make money for being out there. They'll get training pay. Sometimes it's upward of $1,200. It just depends. So.
Yeah, and that's a good way for them to determine whether or not this is for me or not, right?
Yeah, I've had the ones that I had sent out there, it was an academic alignment thing, but it was just like, just go out there and be exposed to it and see if this is something that you really want to do. And yeah, it definitely it helps.
Yeah, that's really, I mean, I guess that's a great eye opener for folks out there who don't know anything about the military to sign up for something like that. Go to Fort Knox, figure out in 4 weeks if this is something you'd like to do for part of your career or for a majority of your career. And so I think that's great. I didn't go to basic camp. I actually went to Fort Leonard Wood to basic training when I was 18, straight out of high school. And that was an eye opener for me. I would imagine basic training is completely different than basic camp.
It's way more intense. Like if I have somebody that's coming in and they're inquiring about the S&P program, when I explain FTX and certain things, they're like, yeah, really, that's it. So yeah, it's for those guys, they're already coming in a more senior role anyway, because of ending, just being enlisted, going to basic training, AIT and things like that. So when we're mentioning FTXs and advanced camp and things like that, they're already ahead of the game. So
yeah. I had a great time when I went to advanced camp. We got a chance to I got a chance to work with a lot of cadets from all over the country, and being prior service that I was, I mean, it was kind of a cakewalk in itself and a good time because there was other prior service folks there as well. And we all just had a really, really great time. And Dr. Brantley, just want to ask you really quick, can you help assess and knock down some of the stereotypes that are out there or any of the myths that are out there about the Army ROTC program that maybe you've heard over the years?
Yeah. On social media, I try to do like a question and answer thing. And I like to focus in on a lot of the myths. For one, like when we go to the high schools, ROTC, Army ROTC at a university is not the same as JROTC at a high school. There's certain elements, there's certain, similarities, but it's totally different. So that's just one thing. As soon as you enlist into the program, does not mean that you're enlisted into the Army and you won't just go off to fight a war or some things like that I heard. Once the whole thing with Ukraine, I don't even get into all that, but once that happened, I was meeting with, applicants, and they were like, if I sign up for this class, do I have to go to Ukraine? And I thought he was playing, like a couple of them, but no, they thought they were going to Ukraine. It's not, that's not what it is. Actually, you can enroll into the program, you can participate in the program, and you don't have to commit and contract until later down the line. And I like to do that also. The upside is it's still, you get elective credits. You can be exposed to the program, and it helps you make your decision. It might be something that you're still into. To go back, another myth, you're a student first. So if you still want to play, or you are selected to play, or you have a scholarship, you still want to do sports, you still want to be a fraternity, a sorority, be in clubs around campus, still go out and party, you still can. You have that, that opportunity to still do that and be exposed to you have the college experience, as I call it. Like a young sailor in San Diego, I didn't have the college experience of sitting in classes, but yeah, I used to hang out on a lot of these campuses. Like I went here and things like that. So if you come into the program, you actually have the college experience. More so as far as like what's available, there is no unlimited pot of money. Sometimes we do have applicants come in and they say, I want a scholarship and I want a commission or a contract right now. And no, there are requirements that you need to meet. And there are allotted funds that we have, but the program does its best to make sure, that we try to take care of every, cadet that is eligible and is rewarding of it. So I think from June to now, we've given out maybe 25, 26. If we had to make sure, we had the applicants that made the requirements, that was one thing that we made sure that we took care of. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but there's a bunch of them. And as people go through, the program, or as they're exposed to it, they tend to come up and they tend to ask. And a lot of, in the Navy, we call them sea lawyers, but there's a lot of word of mouth sometimes when it comes to just information, just bad gouge. So it's always ideal to ask questions. And like I say, I keep odd hours. So sometimes I will get an odd question in the middle of it, like right when I'm waking up to work out, and I'll have to look at it twice. Does this mean that I have to, go fight? No, it just means you have to go to MS2 class and, pass the class.
Right. Yeah. We called them barracks lawyers in the Army. There was a lot of those. And so, if anyone out there is listening, it's definitely worth, following, Dr. Michael Brantley on his social media platforms, or contacting him and asking him and getting the actual real information about what it is, what it's about. Don't talk to someone who knows someone who knows someone, because that's the worst type of information that you could possibly get out there. And with that being said, I want to finish this up and talk about the scholarships that are becoming available within the next coming year or so. And would you suggest a site visit for anyone out there who might be interested in the San Diego State University Army ROTC program to meet the cadre and to observe the overall structure of the battalion itself?
I would. Right now we're in the middle. We're closing on the middle, the second board of the national scholarship process. That is one thing that I always say. If you're a high school senior, apply for the national scholarship. Apply. Like it can't hurt you going through that process. It's a little tedious because you have to go through, you have to, type your essay, you have to upload your documents, you have to do a PMS, or if she can't do it, then I can do the interview. You have to take your fitness test, but apply. And those kids that reach out for us to do their interview, if we're on their list of schools, stop by, get you some swag, and we can tell you exactly what it is that you want to know about the program. If you're considering a school that's on the East Coast, but you're in the West Coast, still reach out to that school. On the page that I had made, the social media page, I have an Ask a Cadet option. So you go in there and you'll drop your questions, and I'll send it off to our APMSs, or I'll reach out to somebody if it's a specific type of cadet. And it'll have, male, female, nursing, what year you're in, your major, any questions that you might have. So always just, poke around and get those questions. But yeah, right now, the National Scholarship, even if you're coming into the process late, apply for the National Scholarship. We go to a lot of these high schools and people have no idea what it is. Or sometimes people will tell you that they know what it is and they don't. You get into the conversation, they'll be like, yeah, I'm doing it. And I'm like, oh, well, how far are you? How's your profile looking? Give me your name and I can look it up, see if you need any help. Well, no, I must be talking about something else. Well, no, it's only one, but I'm gonna help you. So
right.
One thing I did was I had went in and I had made a fake account. It's like, it says SDSU buff or something. And the guy, he calls me like, who is this person? I said, that's me. I had made it in order to, have the profile so I could see step by step what's needed. Instead of me just telling somebody to go in there and apply, I know exactly what's required in there. So, for the second board, it comes up in January. I'm on social media. I'm really pressing it out there every other day. Make sure you go in there, especially since the holidays are here. We're things are going to slow down a little bit. Go in, make sure your application is good to go. We had a couple of people we were still able to, award scholarships to, and they only went through one board, the board in March. But, just go through it. Just have the opportunity, or give yourself the options to have that opportunity, and then it'll work out. But National Scholarship is always top tier when I talk to the high school seniors. Those that aren't, they're a little further on past that. Maybe they're considering, they got past the whole March, the last board, and they're just coming in as a college student. Take some of the classes first. Take MS1 to see if it's something that you're into. See if it's something that you can see yourself doing for that duration of your time at college. And if it is, then we can sit and we can talk about opportunities for scholarship. I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't play when it comes to scholarships. If they're deserving and if the APMSs think they're deserving, we're going to get that paperwork in. And we'll be working back and forth when it comes to that scholarship requirement in order to be met. There's some, the 104, which is the academic roadmap. There is you have to make sure you do your DOD physical and things like that. But when it comes to, once we identify somebody that's up for a scholarship, we do. I do also, I stress the whole S&P, the simultaneous membership program option. Because some people, they come into San Diego State or one of these other schools and they're already National Guard or they're already reserves or they're considering it. I don't shy them away from that. I don't never say, hey, don't do this, do this. No, I'll say, okay, well, if this is what you're doing, have you heard about this program? And then these right here are the potential opportunities for that. I'm real big on the whole ed to late thing because, the more you pursue education, there is this, the conversation right now is just student loan debt forgiveness. And I haven't had any of that. So ed delay where you can become a JAG lawyer and go to med school. Yeah. I remember a year ago, maybe a couple of years ago, we sent somebody for their doctorate in physical therapy. All this stuff is paid for and nobody really knows. And, we say what we want to be when we grow up and you got the opportunity to do this within a short amount of years if you just followed the right path. So it's a lot. Like I'm passionate about it because I didn't know about it. Like if I knew, I probably still would have worked at that porta potty place because I was I was a knucklehead. But as I got serious about my career in the Navy, if I knew about a lot of this stuff, then yeah, I don't regret anything that I did. But I think for my own personal reasons and probably just money too after I retired, going officer would have been very beneficial. So I'll always, make sure I share that information. So I know a lot of people that I serve with and their kids, they're thinking about just enlisting. I'm not trying to stop you from doing that, but just know that this opportunity is out there. So
right. And I always, just like how you got enlisted into the Navy, it was just circumstantial. The bus stop was there. The recruiting office was there. I hear these stories all the time. Well, I joined the Marines because I saw Full Metal Jacket. Yeah. I want to hear stories about people who are actually taking the paperwork, laying it out on the table, all the information, and making an informed decision. Not signing up for things just because the recruiters could do more pull-ups than me, and so I went and signed up to be an Army infantry, or I decided to become a Marine, and I want to get to a point where these young adults are making informed decisions based off of, where their career is going to go. But too many times, like for me, for example, the only reason I became an officer was because my platoon sergeant and my company commander had mentioned to me, hey, why don't you take it to the next level? Why don't you consider like ROTC? And I'm like, I don't know. I literally was, for 2 years, I was on campus walking past the Army ROTC battalion almost every week. And I never bothered to stop because I just didn't think it was for me. Yeah. And the day that I walked into the recruiting office and I said, hey, look, I'm interested, I realized that, hey, this opportunity is available to me. So for folks out there who are listening and you think maybe, I don't know if this is for me or not, there are many, many opportunities for you to just check out one of the MS1 or MS2 classes. There's opportunities for you to just visit the campus, visit the actual battalion area, meet the professor of military science, meet the recruiting officer, talk to him, get information. Don't listen to someone who might know. Get the information up front, find out. So that's why I'm so glad that you gave me the time today to talk to you, because I'm very passionate about this too. I want people to make the transition into the military being informed. But was there anything during this podcast that I didn't cover that you would probably like to mention? Any pieces of advice for folks out there who are listening, who are thinking about having their son or daughter join the Army ROTC program?
No, we covered everything. I would say just depending on whatever school you want to go to, because there's an ROTC program in most of these schools. I think it's like almost 300. Reach out, and if you don't hear back at an ample time, reach out to me or there's a lot of recruiting operations officer. Like, I have a lot of stuff on standby, so most of the information is the same. Yeah, programs run things a little differently when it comes to the structure of the courses, and some might have battalions, some don't. But when it comes to the grand overall plan of the ROTC program, a lot of it is the same. So if you get that information from one school and you're kind of spun up, by the time you talk to your other school, you'll have the information. I cannot reiterate enough, but the national scholarship is something that is very important. Like, we went to one school, and this guy, I have nothing. Like I say, I'll never regret my time serving. But when I do a post, I want to try to be as information. I want to have the information out there. Right now, it's I'm a little older. I'm 43, so we're seeing TikTok voiceovers and all that stuff, and it's just like it's hysteria. Hey, gas prices are high. Join the military. I don't want that. I want you to know the opportunity of education. Like, it has not steered me wrong since I, pursued my education. And when I talk to people about that, I am very passionate about that. When I talk to people about the whole fitness things, because you have to make sure you meet the fitness requirement, I'm very passionate about that. But, as I say, we're leaving a lot of money on the table just because we're not informed on, what's going on. And when you go to a lot of these high schools, the first questions I ask, I say, okay, well, who plans on going to college? And a lot of hands will go up. And I say, okay, so who knows how they're going to pay for college? One or two hands go up. And that's when I'm like, oh, I got them. But that's when you can kind of get into it and, make the information available. Like, to me,
right.
I'm always asked what the recruiting strategy is. Everyone's doing this. Everyone's looking at their phone, unfortunately. So no one's looking at newspapers and billboards or anything like that anymore. Have the information right there available for them. Quick, accessible, easy on the eyes. They be colorful. Like, the stuff that I post isn't, I have weird music playing in the background. I'll put a crazy photo of me as a little kid to kind of get some laughs, but I want the information to be out there for you to know this stuff is here and it's right there and it's waiting, and all these programs have it to offer. So,
yeah, I'll say that your social media is certainly appealing, and I think that a lot of Army ROTC battalions out there could use a social media savvy person like yourself. Because I tried to contact my old university last year, went to their website, sent emails, turned out that those cadre members had moved on, and those were dead links, basically. So I had to email about 5 different people before I got a response back. So with that being said, if anyone out there listening might be interested in getting up early in the morning and working out with Dr. Michael Brantley here down in San Diego, how can they get a hold of you? What platforms are you on?
I have, a Facebook and I have a Twitter, but I think the most user friendly one for me right now is Instagram. And I'll post the most relevant stuff. What I do is if I have a conversation with an applicant and, he has something that's on his mind and he's uncleared. He wasn't able to find it. Like you mentioned, there's a lot of dead links. Like I joined one Facebook group for the Green to Gold program. That's another thing for, current active duty soldiers that want to go officer outside of the OCS route. There's a Green to Gold option to where you can go ADO, non-scholarship, scholarship. I'm sorry, we didn't mention that. So maybe in another podcast, but Green to Gold right now, they're doing the boards and the board closes on Friday. But when people try to get the information, there's just dead links and they just go down this rabbit hole trying to find all this information. So for me, Instagram and, I don't have one of those automated messages in the DM. It's right there. I try to answer it, pretty quick. I'll switch the link around to the website that I made, but the website that I made not only has all the most relevant information, but it also has, all the forms that's needed. So if I'm talking to somebody and they're already spun up and they say, okay, I'm ready to enroll. Can you send me the forms? I don't need to send you anything because you can go to the website and you can download them there. Usually when I talk to somebody, I have all of my, my Zoom, my social media account, the website, everything in my link. So a lot of times I'll get people click in and just do a Zoom. And if I'm up and, I'll hop on the call or whatever. Yeah, it's all there. I don't do business cards. I used to have like a .cards link on my Instagram, and that would have I made additional email. It's called SDSU@gmail.com. I have the work phone, send a text. You don't have to call. A lot of people are texting right now. If I have a PowerPoint, I have our orientation. I upload people with so much information up front that you'll be crazy not to at least try it out. It's all right there for you, So, and if that doesn't work, we'll send you right over to a current cadet. You can talk to them and see what their experiences are. And it's been working. Like I said, I really don't have a strategy. I thought my social media was about to get shut down, but it's just they wanted me to. I had to say a certain disclaimer in order to make sure that since I'm doing my own thing.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw the disclaimer that you added to that. And no, I think you're doing great. I think you're doing great things. I did check out the dot card that you have, and there's a lot of information on there as well. And for folks out there listening, if you're looking to contact the recruiting officer for San Diego State University, even if you're interested in the Army ROTC program, period, you don't have to be interested in San Diego State. If you just want to get information, all right, scroll down to the bottom. If you're listening to this on audio podcast, you can scroll to the bottom in the show notes. You'll see the different links where you can get a hold of Dr. Brantley. And then also too, if you're watching this on YouTube, look down in the description. You'll see all the links down there as well to get all the information you need. And it's all about timing. It's all about timing when it comes to these scholarships and getting those opportunities. Dr. Brantley is a great contact for that. And I really appreciate you giving me your time today. I know you're very busy doing recruiting and then also, doing your full-time job as well. And so I really appreciate you for giving us your knowledge and your time today.
Thanks for having me. I enjoyed it. I know I didn't do better than Lieutenant Colonel Parlette. Hers is very articulate. So thanks for having me.
That's why she makes the big bucks, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So for everyone else out there, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I hope it provided some knowledge and some coordination as far as what direction you might want to go, or maybe someone, refer them to this podcast and have them listen to it. But as always, I want you to stay tuned, stay focused, and stay motivated. Warriors, fall out. You've been listening to the Morning Formation Podcast. I hope you found today's materials helpful and of value to your current situation. You can connect with me on Instagram at _morning_formation_podcast, or you can connect with me via email at theformationpodcaster@gmail.com. Also, I would like to thank my partners at Act Now Education for their support. Authenticity, community, and trusted is what you can expect from all members of the Act Now Education team. You can link up with them today and learn about some new, free educational resources on their Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, or at their website, actnoweducation.com. Whether today's show took you back to a nostalgic time or helped you think about tomorrow, thank you for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you again. Stay safe and stay motivated. Warriors, fall out.